Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks. And yes, today we're going to be looking at the first of the Czechoslovakian tanks to hit World of Tanks console. We've got it early so you can get a jump start on training up your Czechoslovakian crews, and the rest of the tank line, or well, sorry, the tank line should I say, is landing on the 13th of February. So, what is this? It's the, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Žižka Škoda T40, and it's basically a hero version, which is why it's got the colours of the Czechoslovakian flag on it. Now, whether you like the look of it or you don't, again, I don't know. I'm not overly keen on it myself, the look of it, but it's definitely better than some of the other tanks that we've had, really. You know, I don't think it's too bad. Nice, simple colours, and yeah, I think it's definitely better looking than some of the ones that we've had. Now, this one is in an ultimate bundle at the moment. Other cheaper bundles are coming, sort of on a staggered release, I believe. And well, its Tankopedia price is 5,040 silver. Sorry, gold. I wish it was silver. 5,040 gold. Now, that's again a little bit high for a tier 6. However, it's cheaper than the British Bulldog, which was very expensive for a tier 6 at just over 6,300, I think it was. And I don't know, I mean, again, you compare it to some of the other tier 6s, the TOG 3,500, Panzer IV-S 3,750. You know, it's kind of like, it is fairly high priced for a tier 6, I suppose, but it is what it is. You know, that if you want it, that's the price you're going to have to pay. Well, you're going to have to pay more than that because, you know, you're going to have to get it in a bundle, but there we go. Now, tier 6, like I said before, no preferential matchmaking, so you will see up to tier 8, and its bonuses are, I think it's 30% on on both. It is, yeah, 30% silver, 30% XP. And my first impressions, I've not had many games in it yet, maybe 3 or 4. I don't think disappointing is the right word. I think that's a bit strong. Underwhelming, I think, is possibly closer to the mark. Now, the gun itself is the short 88. It does have the buffed penetration that the short 88 has received on some of the other tanks, but not on the T-34-88, which I mentioned yesterday, I think it was. 8.69 rounds a minute rate of fire. 145 pen, 220 average damage, 200 for your premium ammunition, and 44 270 for your HE. Aiming time 2.3 seconds, which feels very, very long when you're actually using the tank. You know, there's a few others that have got 2.3 second aiming time, and it's quite manageable. With this, for some reason, it just seems to feel a long time when you're aiming. Accuracy 0.37, which is not bad actually. You know, there are better accuracies with that gun, but there's also worse, you know, so accuracy is not too savage. Hull traverse is 38 degrees a second, which again is not too bad, not as good as the Russians, but it's you know, better than the Germans, and it's, you know, about on par with the Americans, so it's about average really. And hull, I've gone all fingers and thumbs again, which is bizarre because I'm speaking. Yeah, hull traverse 38 degrees, turret traverse 32 degrees, which can be slightly frustrating. It always is, or I find it very frustrating when your turret traverse is slower than your hull traverse, because obviously then the turret sometimes struggles to keep up with your hull traverse. View range 370 meters, which isn't bad. It's not, you know, it's not bad at all. It's about average for the tier. So yeah, it's quite an adequate view range, and quite a decent signal range of 710 meters. Now, it's very hard to get an accurate sort of feel of the tank with basically a standard crew, which is what it is. I've not even got 6th sense on there. You can see 7% on my camo. 6th sense is, I mean, it is required on every tank, but on this tank, you just suffer miserably without it, unfortunately. But I'd say definitely crew skills, 6th sense, camouflage, anything that makes you less visible, and definitely situational awareness. Definitely, you want to increase that view range as much as possible. From my first impressions of this, it is most definitely a support tank and a flanker, and it's got some very good features. It's got good speed, it's got a good gun, it's got very good ground resistances. The armour, unfortunately, is pretty crap though, and that kind of lets it down. I mean, to give you an indication, this is tier 6. I got hit and nearly one shot by a tier 5 arty. In fact, I might even use that clip just to show you, and that's because the side armour, well, below the tracks it is what it says it is. Above the tracks it's a lot thinner. Equipment wise, well, I've gone for a gun rammer to increase the rates of fire, obviously. Gun laying drive to try and bring that aim time down, and it still feels very long. I can't, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, it does still feel very long. And coated optics to increase the view range, because your best defense in this is not getting seen and not getting hit. I have managed to bounce about 2 shots so far, one from an AT2, you know, the British tier 5 tank destroyer, and one from an M6, and that was off the turret, and because I was moving about, I'm more fluke than anything else. Generally, if you're going to get hit, you're going to get penned. Seems to be my experience of it so far, but by the time I actually do the replays and do the commentary on that, my opinion might have changed. But that's why I've gone for the coated optics instead of vents, to increase the view range, because, like I say, this is most definitely a support tank and a flanker, and it, like I say, has good features, just not very good armour. Right, engine wise, 700 horsepower engine with a fairly decent power to weight ratio of 17.55, which is not bad. That's pretty good for a medium tank. Good forward top speed, 50 kilometers an hour. Good reverse speed, 20 kilometers an hour, and only a 15% chance of fire. I've seen lower, but I've also seen a lot higher. The engine block is fairly large, and the upper part of the hull, basically from the back of the turret to the back of the tank, is engine components, but below that it is a very small target to hit from the side. Gun depression is slightly underwhelming again at -6 degrees. Your elevation's good at 20 degrees, so if anything gets above you, you're not going to have much trouble shooting up at them. But that -6 degrees does let it down somewhat, and I feel that if it had better gun depression, it would cope a lot better on ridge lines, because you would increase the angle of your armour. As you can see on the front there where the driver's hatch is, it's quite a flat plate. Terrain resistances, we've already covered the hull traverse. Terrain resistances 0.8, 0.9 and 2, so not bad at all. You know, that its terrain resistances are nice, and you know, its acceleration's alright, gets up to top speed fairly quickly and seems to maintain it, so you can move about the battlefield fairly easily. Quite a large turret, as you can see. Radio is in the back of the turret and takes up most of the back of it. Ammunition blocks, yeah, you've got a lot. Well, not a lot, you've got big ones. Left and right side of the tank, just below the turret, in front of, well, those small squares on the upper side of the hull are actually bits of track. So if you aim just in front of that, you're probably going to hit an ammo rack. If you're on the right hand side of the tank, basically the side of the turret, or again just below it, same place, just in front of the tracks, and you are going to hit an ammo rack. I've had my ammo rack damaged a few times in this, and I think safe stowage could possibly be a wise investment, because they can damage it through the front, as well as you can see through the corners of the hull there, on, I don't know, what do you want to call them, the shoulders maybe, if the turret's there, I don't know. But yeah, I've had my ammo racks damaged, so definitely safe stowage wants to be on there. So thinking back to the crew skills again, and I'm jumping about a little bit, sixth sense, camouflage, safe stowage, muffled shot, possibly green thumb, silent driving, situational awareness, I would say, possibly situational awareness after camouflage and sixth sense, and then safe stowage. But yeah, I'd say you definitely need that. Oh, concealment as well while we're here. 0.26 stationary, 0.2 on the move, which again is not bad for a medium tank. Not great, I've seen better, but it's not bad. It is a fairly big medium tank. Crew members, you've got the driver and what would be the assistant driver, or maybe even doubling up as a radio operator possibly on this one, down in the actual hull itself. And then up in the turret you've got the commander in his usual spot under the cupola, and you've got the loader and the gunner sat up there with him as well. Now, armour wise, as you can see, not brilliant. The basic figures are 65 on the front of the turret and hull. As you can see, it's not quite telling the truth, is it? 40 on the sides of the turret and the hull, and then the turret has 40 on the rear, the hull only has 30 on the rear. Now you might be thinking, well, it's got a, not bad, you know, the upper glacis has got a decent slope to it. Well, it has, but I've seen, again, better slopes, and it is, you know, it does have a good slope to it. It's not quite enough for it to be sort of an auto bounce, and like I said before, I think if it had more gun depression, this would be more effective on ridge lines and what have you, but it hasn't got that gun depression. It is what it is, so you have to use it accordingly. Now, 1 to 20 mil is, well, the top of the turret, and it is quite a big turret as well, so you are a very tempting target for RT in this, because the sides are so thin. And because of that angle, generally, if you get hit by RT, it's either on the front or the side of your tank, and the sides are that thin. Like I say, Tier 5 RT penetrated and did full damage, and with it being quite a large turret top as well. But anyway, there you go. It is, again, it is what it is. Your tracks will act as spaced armour. You can hope that it's up to 20 mil, but it might not be. You do have a few gaps towards the top of the track there as well, so if you are shooting at one of these, and for whatever reason you're struggling to get through the upper side of the hull, try and go for those gaps there if you can. Those squares are slightly thicker. The spare track on the side of this does act as an extra amount of armour, ever so slightly. Well, actually no, it doesn't even act as an extra amount of armour. In fact, I don't even think it gets marked up with armour underneath it. So it is basically, they are just thicker patches of armour. It's not like the Boilermaker where it's an extra layer of spaced on it. Oh, the floor of the hull also falls into that bracket. Now, 21 to 30, remember the sides were supposed to be 40 mil. Now, they have got a bit of an angle to them, but not very much. So it's not going to increase it very much at all, maybe up to 33, 35 if you're lucky. And, you know, I am guesstimating at that. The whole rear of the tank, upper, lower glacis, also falls into that bracket. You do have a fairly decent slope on the back, but it's not going to stop anything with a decent amount of punch to it. Really, you're looking at maybe the lower tiers. You might get lucky and bounce off your backside as you're zipping away, but don't rely on it. You know, it's one of those tanks. I know that sounds very daft and, you know, quite obvious saying don't rely on it, but you'll be amazed how many people you see that do. And like I said before, the upper sides of the hull do fall into that category, which is bad news for you, good news for arty players, because if they hit the side of your tank, they're more likely to pen. In fact, I would say that chances are they're going to pen just about every time. 31 to 50, well, it's all of the turret, bar the front, which was supposed to be 40 mil, I think it was, all round, for sides and rear. The lower parts of the side of the hull actually fall into that bracket, which is the 40 behind the tracks, and those patches on the side, which are spare track, as you'll see on the in the actual proper model. The commander's cupola is completely surrounded and falls into that category as well, between the 31 to 50, and it is a fairly large cupola. And you'll notice at the front of the turret there are you can see those corners that just angle down there. I'm not entirely sure, but they look as though they could actually form a bit of a shot trap, which could theoretically guide the shell down into the upper deck. Whether that does or not, I've not been in it enough to test it, and I've not been up against any really to test it. But you do have that rather large barrel cone where it goes into the, it's not so much a mantle, it is more of just a cone shape, so you can bounce off there if you're lucky. However, the front of your turret is 65 millimeters. There's not much that you'll sort of meet that can't get through it. It does have a bit of an angle to it, but it is, you know, quite flat, and a lot of stuff can just punch straight through the front of your turret. Oh, I did forget to mention, sorry, the upper and the lower glacis, like I say, they fall into that category, so it's very far from the 65 mil, isn't it? And it's not quite angled enough to be sort of an auto bounce zone, so things can overmatch it or get partial overmatching on that and punch through the armour no matter the angle. Again, I have had the odd lucky bounce, but your best defence is just not getting hit or seen if you can. back to this one. Right, like I said before, the whole front of the turret falls into that, but it is quite flat and fairly easy to punch through. 65mm of armour, so, you know, a Sherman could probably get through that, maybe, yeah, probably a couple hundred yards, maybe. And I wouldn't call that the upper glacis, but where the driver's hatch is, that frontal plate there, again, is 65mm, but it is quite flat. And yeah, you basically just got to be careful driving this thing. Like I say, support roll, sniping roll. The accuracy can let you down occasionally when you're in that sniping roll, and it doesn't seem particularly good at firing on the move. And so far, again, from my experience, and I don't want to put a massive down on this, but I'm just being honest. So far, in my experience, but again, this might change later on. If you don't let the gun fully aim, it does seem to miss more often than not. And I know that sounds, again, daft and quite obvious, but there are some tanks where you can pull the shots off while you're not quite fully aimed and get away with it. So again, it is what it is, and I'll try and give you a bit more information in the reviews. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Let's get into the reviews and see how it actually handles. So this is the bit I was on about, and if you watch my health very, very carefully, because I get hit by two things very quickly. First is RT. There you go. It happened really quick. The tank destroyer finished me off, but if you saw, my health just disappeared when RT hit me, and yeah, you've got to be very careful of RT in this. And that's basically because of the upper sides being thin. You've got a very large turret top and a fairly large engine deck as well. So yeah, it's like anybody that drives CDCs, light tanks, to beware of RT, and that was just to demonstrate how devastating RT can be to one of these, and that was a tier 5, that was a griller. Now, this is an encounter, it's on Abbey, and it is a tier 6 match. This does play up to tier 8. I think I've got a tier 8 replay where I do quite well. I don't think I use it in this review, but I will put it on over the next few days, because I've also, I think it might even be the same one, sort of shows a very good, well, I don't know, I think it's a very effective way of playing this tank. And when I recorded the garage bit, I'd only had a couple of games in it, and my first impressions, I was a bit underwhelmed. And after playing more games in it, getting used to it, what it can and can't do. I mean, you can't take a hit. If you get a bounce on this, it's just pure luck, and it's as simple as that. And I have had the odd lucky bounce. And somebody on the forums described it as sort of a lower tier FCM 50T, and that's kind of, I kind of do agree with that. It's a fairly good description of it. It is very similar to the T3488 as well. And you saw there as well, I got my ammo rack damaged through the front. That's what I was saying in the garage. And don't forget, this is a fresh crew. It's Czechoslovakian, new nation, so yeah, no sixth sense, and it's a killer in this. And you do have to know when to fall back, as you saw there. I mean, I took a beating. I really should have just fallen back before then. But yeah, it does remind me of the T3488, very similar power to weight ratio, very similar top speed. T3488 is slightly quicker, and I think that just has the edge on rate of fire, but this has got higher pen. And this has got better ground resistances as well, although the T3488 has slightly better armour, even though it's physically thinner. It's got more of a slope to it. But this tank, it's kind of growing on me. It's mostly about the gun, basically. It's a decent gun. The accuracy can let you down a little bit over long range. But I think a supporting tank and a supporting role is, that's where this fits. It is most definitely a supporting tank and works well as a flanker. And you'll see that, I think, in this match. But yeah, that's what it basically is. It's about the gun. It's one of those tanks, and the rest of it just seems to be a way of getting that gun around the battlefield. Now, I think I marked the area to possibly pay attention to, or I was thinking about it. You see, there was a KV-1S coming down there, possibly. There was another heavy tank as well. I'm not sure what it was. I think at the time I thought it was two KV-1Ss. Now, if they've got the howitzer fitted, I would be in a lot of trouble, because it would, you know, that's it, one hit, boom, dead. I've only got 168 health left, so I've got to be careful now. And I am taking a bit of a risk coming around this way. Can I get them? Oh, I thought they were the other side of the wall, but they were sort of a mixture of the other side of the wall and the building. Now, there's the enemy Žižka. Can I get him? Yep. Just let it aim. There we go. And that does seem to be the thing with this tank. Some tanks, you know, you can get off clutch shots, you know, you're not fully aimed, and more often than not, get away with it. There are other tanks that you just can't do that in, and this seems to be one of those. I do find that particularly with this tank, you do have to let it aim. It's not overly good at clutch shots, or that's my experience so far. Again, bear in mind, all I've done so far is the ASOP in this, so, you know, I've not got many games racked up as yet. But from here, I can get some shots in that 360H. He's seen me. Can I risk another shot? Yeah, pull back. I got his ammo rack, and luckily he just knocked my track off. If that had hit and penned, well, it would have been game over for me. But yeah, it does, you know, you can get around the battlefield quite quickly. Like I say, ground resistance is very good. The gun is not bad, and I think when I say support tank, I mean basically what some of you might call a second line tank as opposed to a front line tank, where you sort of keep up with the front line tanks, keep yourself hidden as much as possible, and support them, support their advance, and you've got to know when to actually go around to flank. You see, I didn't let that one aim, and I missed. And that's kind of what I did. You know, came up that road, went round on the flank, started putting shots in. This, I think, has, I think the T-34-88 has 0.38 accuracy, this is 0.37. And yeah, medium range is fine. Absolutely. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is the shell costs. And this is from memory, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. It's 200, I think, for your AP and your HE, because it's, I do know it's cheaper than the T-34-88 for that. I think that's 252. But that uses APCR for its premium ammo at around 2,800. These are heat rounds, as you can see there, and I think, and again, this is from memory, I did forget, they're about either 4,200 or 4,800-ish per shell. Now this, yeah, overconfidence and a bit of shit to the brains. That nearly ended me there, so I'm now on 32 health. But what I'd actually done was, well, I was flanking around through the town to get shots at this KV-1S and the other heavy that's over there. Now the heat rounds on this are very low velocity. This short 88 doesn't have, you know, it's not a particularly high velocity, it's not too bad. I think it's around 773-ish feet per second on the armour piercing, but the heat rounds on this are around 600 odd meters a second, so yeah, they are quite low velocity. Now came out with that with a high caliber, first class mastery, top gun, and just under 2,000 damage done, and that seems to be around, I think that was the most damage I've done it so far. I've seen somebody on the forums, I think they got just around 2,500 damage in it with a high caliber. But if you do like your support style tanks, if you like the FCM 50T or things like the CDC, the T-34-88 as well. The VK3000, and is it the 2D, the tier 7? I know this is tier 6, but that also has the short 88, and yeah, very similar in its style and manoeuvrability. Of course, that does have slightly better armour than this, and that is the thing with this. The armour is not very good. Like I say, you cannot rely on it. Your best defence is just not getting seen. Or if you do get seen, not getting hit. Now, this is a tier 7 match. Standard battle on Muravanka. Malinovka. Melanoka, maybe. Oh, I'm not even sure which map it is now. Anyway, that doesn't matter. We're here to see some tanking. Now I'm going to head over to the west of the map, and I'm quite surprised actually, because normally most of the team goes over to the western side of the map, and not many people tend to go over to the forest on the east. However, this match it seems to be the other way around, and a lot of the time, you probably know, I do go over to the forest, and that's because not many other people do, or I'm in something that'll do well in there, you know, that's got good gun depression, etc. And yeah, the gun depression on this, like I say, I've used worse. I mean, the Chinese tanks at the minute, their gun depression is awful. This is -6. The T-34-88 is -7, and yeah, I do compare it to that a lot because it is very, very similar. You know, like I say, very similar gun, although there are slight differences. This got the buffed penetration, the T-34-88 doesn't, but that I think has the edge in fire rate. Right, let's see if we can get this ELC. If we can just sit still back there. Oh, lovely. And I've got coated optics on this to increase that view range. I'm going to put situational awareness on it quite early on as well, because I think outspotting your enemies in this is definitely a good thing. And this is kind of how I'd play it. You know, some people would say play it like a pussy. I don't know, in a way I'm playing it very, very cautiously, trying to keep out of the way. If I do get spotted, just pull back, and I know, you know, that's pretty standard for a lot of tanks. No, I can't quite get another hit on him. Can I from here? No, there's a Hellcat with him as well. Now my plan here was to ram the Hellcat, shoot the T-25/2. But I've got a bit of support with me. They take out the T-25/2, I think it was, and I managed to take out the Hellcat. No, yep, it was me. Now 360-1H over there again. Now, this is definitely not a brawler. It's not a frontline tank. I have seen people trying to play it like that, and they didn't last very long. And I think this one actually get more spotting damage than anything else, more assisted. Definitely having that extra view range is helping out. But this is how I've had most success in this. Like I say, working the flanks, swinging around, playing the supporting role. Although I suppose technically I am on the front line at the minute, I'm still keeping my distance and trying to use the terrain to my advantage. Now, T-29, I thought he was actually AFK or AFP, and it turns out he isn't, and I take a big old hit. But luckily I've still got all my health at this point, so it's not too bad. It's left him on about half health. I'm going to have to be careful, I don't want to take another one of those. But it's quick enough to get out of the way before he reloads. Get some hard cover in between me and him, and see if I can get to a better position. No, he's dead. Now we've got an IS down there. There's still, yeah, a couple of tank destroyers, and there's one. Oh, there's that gun depression and a snowbank. And the rate of fire is quite nice on this. Admittedly, like I say, it is slower than the T-34-88. I think it's about the same as a normal Tiger with this gun, I think. Tiger 131 has a faster rate of fire. And yes, higher penetration. I said yes, I don't know where I'd got 149 in my head. It's actually 169 for Tiger 131. One of you did point that out, that I'd got that one wrong. But yeah, I don't know where I got that number from. Oh, that Fury. Am I going to get him? Yeah. And there we go. Match over. So that's the Žižka Škoda T40. Slightly high on the price, I think, personally. Oh, came out of that one with a mastery badge. That's not bad, but I think that was down to the nearly 3,000 assisted damage. I only did 1,500 of my own. So that's the Žižka Škoda T40. Whether it's worth it, that's up to you. I've just basically shown you what it can do, told you a little bit about it, and I think it's a a good solid gun. It's got good top speed, good ground resistance, but the armour is quite poor, and yeah, the gun depression could be slightly better. But yeah, there you go. I hope you've found that informative, and maybe it'll make up your decision where you actually, when I can speak, whether you actually would like to buy that one or just give it a miss and wait for the tech tree. But I'll be back tomorrow with another video, so until then, take care out there, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.